Happy New Year! It isn't 2020 anymore, is it? I want to teach you 2 ways to write the number 2. Okay? You can write it with like a candy cane. You go down the slide and straight back. Or you can write like a candy cane. Go down the slide, make a loop, and then a curve. And both ways are right. There isn't one that is right and one that is wrong. But I think for this past year, at first, I think it was okay to write it like this with the straight line at the back, because we would kind of go around the bend of a year. We'd slide into a new year, and then the new year was always pretty straightforward, just like many of the other years. But it wasn't that way this last year, was it? I think we need to write our 2 with a loop, because many of us were thrown for a loop, which means we didn't see COVID coming. And then we felt like we were thrown a curveball when we had all these restrictions and government rules and masks and everything else. And March was our first thrown for a loop curveball year. And this is what most of our faces looked like. We were sad. School was canceled. Ball was canceled. Soccer was canceled. Many parents' jobs were canceled. And it was a tough month. And then fall arrived. And guess what our faces looked like again? University was just online. There were no hockey games, no volleyball games, no visiting with family. It was tough again. But guess what? We are in a new year now. We are in the year 2021. Now, I wrote it still with a loop and a curve because I think it's going to take us a little while to get everything back to some kind of normal. But there's a difference in this, and that is the number 1 at the end. Now, before I could put a sad face in those circles, and it worked really well to make 2020. But it doesn't work very well with a straight line with a number 1 at the end, does it? So how could I change that number 1 into something? What would you change that into? I was thinking I could make it into an arrow. What do you think? I think that's the only thing you can make out of a straight line. And an arrow points you straight up to Jesus, doesn't it? Now, what do you think? Do you think Mary and Joseph thought it was a tough year when they found out they were going to have a baby? I think they were definitely thrown for a loop and a curveball in their plans. It wasn't what they expected. It wasn't what they planned. I don't think they'd ever even thought of such a thing. I think they probably struggled that year too. But the Bible tells us that Mary did not complain. Well, it doesn't say she didn't complain, but it says she pondered these things in her heart. It doesn't say, and Mary complained all year. No, it says, and Mary pondered these things in her heart. It doesn't say she complained about having to wear a mask. She complained about social distancing. She complained about government rules. None of that. She pondered these things in her heart and kind of left things up to God, didn't she? Did you know that not one single moment in this past year took God by surprise? He wasn't surprised when Mary was going to have a baby, and he wasn't surprised when the whole world got COVID this past year. Do you think you can just keep looking up to Jesus for this year? No more sad faces. We've had enough of those for 1 year. For this year, for the new 2021, let's look up to Jesus. And 2021 could be a great year. Happy New Year.